Welcome back to this week's edition of the Cart Barn Podcast. I'm Chris Lemley, joined by Greg DeWalt, and it's just the February. It's just the time of year we have in North Alabama. The weather is just not very conducive for playing golf, but at least there's some good golf on TV. Watching the Genesis Open this weekend and the Chubb Classic, which has got some Alabama connections playing down there. And Greg, we just dodged some weather over the weekend.
Yeah, I tell you, it's this is the time of year when you're aching to get out on the golf course and start, playing, getting off simulators and all that, and really getting out and enjoying it. And it's just been terrible for 2 weeks. We had storms come through here. I think Cypress Lakes may have gotten a little damage from the storms last night, but I'm sure they'll have it back up and running. Scotty Stevens does a great job over there as the superintendent. Yeah. But, man, it's just, 7 inches of rain this past week, I think, is about what we're going to end up with. And then now in the 30s for the rest of the week. Snow possibly.
Oh, Wednesday.
So,
yeah. The day this week's episode's going to come out, they're talking snow right at this moment. No major accumulation. That's usually when we get some.
But it's still snow, and it still keeps you off the golf course. So hopefully the weather breaks here. But, what about the Genesis? That's crazy good golf. And I'm enjoying Torrey Pines because, you hit it in the rough and you pay the price.
Yeah. And Maverick is on fire today. So that's...
He can roll that rock, as they say.
Yeah, he can.
But anyway, so what do you say we jump into this week's
we've got a really good episode. Someone that I've known for a very long time. We both have, actually. But Matt Terry. Matt is from Moulton originally. He's the golf coach at Louisiana Tech, and he spent some time at Shelton State at JUCO down in Tuscaloosa, and then he was the head coach at Troy for a number of years and did a really good job there. And I think that opened the door for him at Louisiana Tech, and he's had some really good teams, and they've got a lot of things going on, but just a really good interview.
Yeah, like I say, we've known Matt for quite a while. He might not be a name that everybody knows around the state, but if you look at his resume, he's obviously done very well for himself. You just don't walk into Troy and become the head golf coach without knowing what you're doing and then moving on to Louisiana Tech. He's had a couple of Alabama guys down there too at Louisiana Tech, I believe. So
yeah, the Murphy twins from Decatur and they're playing professionally now. But yeah, he did a really good job at Troy, as you say, and he's had some pretty good teams at Louisiana Tech. And I think everyone's going to enjoy this episode. Matt's not shy, and certainly is able to, as the old saying, talk the horns off a billy goat.
We didn't have to ask many questions but in the hour that we were there with him. So hopefully everybody will enjoy this and learn a little bit more about Matt Terry from Moulton.
Yeah, let's get into this week's episode of the Cart Barn. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're joined by Louisiana Tech head coach Matt Terry. Matt, welcome to the Cart Barn podcast.
Thanks, Chris. Glad to be here with you and Greg.
So it's good to see you. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has.
I think when you quit playing the Jim Bishop Invitational down at Twin Pines, I don't see you as much anymore.
Well, I 100 Battles got me to come back few years ago to play, and Chris knows about this, and I pegged it up normally, and then I found out from Chris that night, why didn't you play up here with us? And I was like, I'm back there grinding out, trying to save par, and these kids are flipping wedges and making a million birdies, and I could have been up there with him and Tracy, actually feeling like I could play golf again instead of feeling like I needed.
He's back playing the not that that's the longest golf course in the world, but he's back there playing the tips. And
exactly,
we had moved way up.
Hey, no doubt, and I would have loved that.
It was a lot more fun.
You just need to check out the age divisions a little closer before you just walk back there to the tips.
I've never been accused of being the sharpest cat, so I just sign up and play. And which way's the Calcutta?
I've heard that before. So as we get started, why don't you just kind of give listeners a little bit of your background and how you got into golf and how you got into coaching?
Yeah, I was really fortunate, growing up where I did. You played just about anything and everything you could in Lawrence County and in North Alabama. And, we didn't stay inside, as Chris and you can attest. It was get outside, no video games, all that good stuff. And, I thought myself I was going to play football, baseball, and, I played a little bit of everything. And, in eighth grade, decided going into night to transfer over to Hartselle and, be at a place that, we had an indoor practice field for football. It was kind of, the baseball program was really good. And, I thought I was going to go over there and do all those things. And there you go again at 14, 15 years old thinking, went over there and realized really quick I wasn't near as good at that stuff as I thought I was. When you're by yourself in your bedroom, you feel like you're really good at things. And I got over there, and baseball team was extremely good, has since won several state championships under William Booth and, a legend in baseball in Alabama. And I played football for Don Woods and, was really fortunate to do that. And I was around a lot of great men, playing football over there, but, never got big enough to do much in football and all that. And then probably 10th grade, I went in and saw Mr. Bell, our golf coach, and asked him to play golf. And he asked me if I had a set of clubs, and I said I did. I'd gotten a set, I think, when I was in 8th grade in Moulton. I think I played 1 year at Lawrence County High School with a great group of guys, Derek Proctor being the main cat there and really good player. And I didn't know much about golf, but he asked me if I had a set of clubs, and I said, yeah, I got a set of clubs. He goes, well, what do you shoot? I said, well, I broke 60 once. Well, that's 9 holes. And I probably cheated half the time when I did break that 9 holes playing at Deer Run. Because I'm sure I didn't get it on the green on number 5 back then, straight up the hill on Goat Hill. But I was fortunate there. He allowed me to play, and I learned a lot from some great guys on that golf team, and Jack Napier being one of them. And Jack was a great player at Jacksonville State. And, he was nice enough to help me. And, he was a lefty, I was a righty. So I tried to mirror image a lot of things he did. Not that I could, but, it helped me get a lot better. And of course, Chris and Tracy were a little bit older in our county. And when I really got into golf, Tracy Lance, they had a little driving range. And I joined it. I think it was $45, and you got a little old card you could scan in and get all the balls you wanted. And I would go over there at night. It was lit, and after football practice, I would just whack golf balls. Had no idea what I was doing, but I was whacking the crap out of them. But that's kind of how I got started playing. And then I played a couple years at Northwest Community College in Phil Campbell. It was a great time and a lot of fun, and playing Twin Pines every day. You got better at putting. You had to. Greens were really good. And, we didn't have a bunker on the golf course, so there was zero bunker game for me. But I got better and thought I was really good at golf. Went to Alabama, and they were that again. You start thinking that you're really good at something, and you go down to Tuscaloosa, and there was a bunch of good players on that team. And, Dick Spivey did me a good favor not ever putting me on that team because I wasn't good enough to play for them. But it's helped me be a better coach. And in that time when I was there, while I was practicing, I got to know the junior college coach, Jim Collins, and he was a retired state trooper, great guy. And he allowed me to be around the team a little bit, his JUCO team. And I would go out and watch qualifying, help him out a little bit, and, just do some piddly things, nothing much. And when I left, I attempted to play for 2 years, and I went to Q school in 98 and didn't fare very well. And after that week, I knew I needed to get a job, and just so happened to get a call, a voicemail when I got home one day, and hit the answering machine, which kids don't know what answering machines are now, but hit the answering machine, and it was him saying, hey, you want to come up and help me out? And I called him, and he basically said, come on up. I want you to meet the team. I think we're pretty good. And this was in November-ish, December, about this time. And I went up to Tuscaloosa, met the guys, watched them play, and I was like, well, these guys can flat go. And we get to talking, and something I really wanted to do. And Dixie had a really good job, my wife, and I called her up and said, hey, I think we can come up here and start coaching. And she said, well, what's it going to pay? $250 a month. We had been married 2 years, and I think my wife may be a little crazier than me. She said, let's do it. And she moved back home to Hatton and helped her high school coach out coaching. And the rest is kind of history there. We won the national title that year, and I took over as head coach. And, my first job, I was making $25,000 a year, thought I was rich as I'll get out. I didn't really have any bills. He let us live in a trailer that he owned and didn't charge us anything. We just had to pay utilities. And man, I was in hog heaven. It was great.
That's pretty interesting route to coaching.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm assuming you had no clue about the coaching end of it. What were your duties? Was it drive the van?
It was, so he basically, he was an ex-trooper for 25 years, and he had played football both ways at Northwestern. He was a guy that I wish he had written a book before he passed away, because he had more stories. 2 tours, and he was a 2-time national pistol shooting champion. The guy had done just about everything. So I learned a lot about, being a man and how to treat people from him. And, basically figuring out really quick the character of individuals, because he had to do that. He was a criminologist and, major at Northwestern, and just a great individual. And he took me the routes of showed me how to walk POs through at Shelton, and walk down and take candy and go see people face to face and ask for the signature. Don't email it. And just taught me how to do things like that. Call people on the phone, go see people. Don't just assume that an email is going to get it done. And I watched the way he was around the guys, and the guys that earned it, they got treated like men, and he let them do their thing. And it was a massive learning experience in about 6 months. And he still stuck around even after he shut it down. He was around every day talking to the guys. And I remember my first tournament, we went to Meridian, and we drove over, and we had a little old van I bought from him, a little Dodge Caravan, and that's what we traveled in. We started out strapping the clubs to the top of it, and then we bought a little pull behind trailer, and that's how we got to tournaments. We won a national title doing this stuff. And we go over to Meridian, and we had finished second in our home event to, I think, Wallace Hansel, Dan York, and we rode over there, and he said, I'll go get our hotel. And I said, okay. Well, he comes back, picks us up, said, where are we staying? He said, the Western. Well, I think it's the Best Western. No big deal. No. It was the Western Motel in Meridian. And Greg, you've been to some of those places, and you have too, Lim. It was interesting, the cigarette burns and the comforters, and you didn't know what was crawling under the sheets. But needless to say, we played pretty good that week, because I think he told them that was kind of, winners get to stay at the Hampton Inn, and guys that don't win stay in the Western.
Yeah, I'm kind of picturing a 60s, 70s styles motel that you can rent by the week, by the month type motel.
Oh, yeah. There were little portable grills sitting outside where the road crew guys were cooking and drinking beer at night. There's no doubt about that. They were they were out there when we came back from the golf course each day.
When I played at Wallace, my freshman year, we had a heck of a team. I mean, we did, and we played everywhere. But Coach Hart would put us in some of the most flea bag hotels that I've ever seen in my life. It was, yeah. So, yeah, when you talk about the Western, I don't know that hotel, but motel, whatever but I can relate.
It's still there because when I come back to Alabama, I pass it and I look at it every time and I smile because I remember that and the big old sheet cake they would have because we would eat after the first round at the campus at Meridian, and they would feed us in the cafeteria and have a massive sheet cake. It was good memories, and I would go back there in a heartbeat.
So when you finished up at or how long did you stay? That was at Shelton State. How long did you stay there, and then went and transition into, I guess, Troy?
Troy. Well, I was there that half year and then 3 years as the head coach, and we won another national title in '02, and um, then the 2 years in between we finished third, and it was a place I never wanted to leave. Yes. We were looking at lots up near the lake, and Dixie and I were. Dixie was coaching the softball team, and we were in a good spot. And I never wanted to leave junior college. I loved it. I was seeing some of the old guys that when I played at Northwest that were coaching, Coach York and a lot of those guys were coaching, and you just went and played in tournaments. It wasn't a lot of puffery or begging or everything. If your team was good, you went and won. And kids wanted to come there and play because they would be in Tuscaloosa and they were trying to earn their way to get a 4-year scholarship, hopefully go to a big school, like an Alabama or an Auburn. But in '02, they shut the program down. And it's funny, I've got the article where Coach Collins wrote, Shelton golf team deserves more. And I've got it. I keep it taped right beside me as a reminder of where I have been and where we're trying to go. And, in '02, I was fortunate. I got a call from the old coach at Jacksonville University. And he said, "Hey, I think Barney Burnett at Troy is going to retire." And I'm hearing that. And so before we ever went to nationals that year, I put my resume in and it was a wing and a prayer. It's a Division I school. How am I ever going to get that job? That's kind of when you're by yourself, you start thinking that way sometimes. And I was fortunate, got an interview, and that interview was kind of funny because it beckons back to me moving to Hartselle. The AD at the time, Johnny Williams, was an old defensive coordinator at Troy, and so I'm in my interview process, and man, I don't have a job. I don't know what I'm going to do. I may go back home and try to work at Reynolds or the paper mill, at IP, and I didn't know what was going to happen. Well, I'm sitting in the office with Johnny, and he puts his feet up on his desk. He's got a Masters golf shirt on. This is on my interview now, and I'm in a suit, nervous as I'll get out, and he's got a big old cup of coffee, leans back, and he goes, "Did you play football at Hartselle?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I did." And he goes, "Do you know a guy by the name of Larry Peck?" And I said, "Yep, best coach I ever played for." And he looks at me and grins and said, "That was my roommate at UNA." And I immediately thought, wow, I could have absolutely been done in this interview had I made the wrong statement. But I was being honest. He was, that the best guy I played for, and a great coach and heck of a guy, and got that job and was coaching 2 teams at Troy. And the funny thing is, that day of that interview, Chris's old teammate Trey Jones called me and kind of gave me a little bit of interview advice. And it was funny. He told me 3 questions they were going to ask me, and they asked me all 3. I don't know how he knew it, but he knew it, and I was able to knock those out of the park, and coach both teams there for 11 years until 2013, and my boss at the time, John Hartwell, split the programs and made me director of golf, and kind of the rest was history there. Won 4 conference titles the next 4 years, went to regionals, everything that I felt like we could do. We built about a $3 million facility on campus, did a lot of awesome things there. The kids, the 2 oldest basically grew up there. And, then in 17, we had an opportunity to come here, and my old boss, Tommy, called me, and I'd been to Squire, had been here to this golf course, and knew how great it was. I knew it was the best course in the state, and I wanted an opportunity to have a team at a place, with a golf course like this. And you know, it's been a great move for my family, for me personally, just changing who I am faith wise and as a human being. And, you know, took you still want to win worse than anything, but the emphasis, I don't wake up every morning and that's immediately what I'm worried about. So it's been good. It's been really good for me. And I feel daily more at peace with what goes on instead of, running around like a chicken with my head cut off on certain days like I did before in my coaching career.
I think one thing, Chris, we probably haven't talked too much about is how good the junior college golf was back in those days.
That's
When
true.
you throw in Central Alabama, Shelton and Wallace, Hansville. I mean, those were really good teams. And I know Central Alabama, I think they won a couple national championships. And I'm not sure how you guys did at Wallace, but I know Dan York had a great program there.
That's true. And you know, they used to play what was called the Alabama Intercollegiate. And so you had Alabama and Auburn and Troy and, the 4-year schools were playing, but the JUCOs were playing with them. And, it might not be that way today, but the JUCOs were the ones that were winning. I mean, I remember
exactly
playing
right.
freshman year when Nicholas is winning the Masters in '86. I'm playing at the U track in Tuscaloosa in the Alabama Intercollegiate, and we beat Alabama. Wallace State did.
I've got some of the old, and I'll have to find them, some of the old Alabama Intercollegiate records from when I was at Troy. I pulled them out, and you sit there and you look, and it's Central Alabama, 1, Troy 2, Jacksonville State 3, Wallace 4, and Bama and Auburn are down there at like 5 and 6. And I remember playing it when I was at Northwest, and there were some flat out players there. And it was hard to beat Wallace. It was hard to beat Central Alabama. I mean, I think about some of those guys that you guys had at Wallace when I was there, 90 and 91, 92, and it was really, really, really good. And you still see a little bit. I mean, John Sadie had, when I was coaching at Shelton, John Sadie's teams were great. I mean, he had Nick Rousey. My first year coaching, Nick was at Central, and you had Bubba Watson down at Faulkner. And I'm standing on the tee box going, I don't know if I'm going to see much better than this anywhere I go. And to be honest with you, I've not stood on a tee and saw a threesome much better than we had a guy named Jason Dillard that was really good that played for us. And those boys, they didn't sniff 70s that day. It was 60 something. And hey, and I wouldn't doubt at some point in time they didn't get a little game going amongst themselves too during the tournament.
I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah.
But stepping from Shelton to Troy, some people may not know how good Troy's golf team was back in the 70s and early 80s. I mean, they're Division II power all the way up. You look at their coaches, Mike Griffin was down there. When I was at UNA playing, I mean, they were 1A and the rest of us were, Z, X, Y, Z. Nobody could compete with them. So that was a little bit of pressure going there and taking over.
It was the whole time I was there, to be honest. And it was because Barney did a great job. And, I've got a great picture with myself, Barney, Griff, and goodness, Ronnie was a 4-time All-America at Troy, and I'm going blank. He coached for just a couple of years.
Ronnie
Mobley. That's right. And you talk about guys, you look at all those All-America plaques they had, all those guys that could go, tour players, Ben Bates, arguably one of the best ball strikers of all time, played the tour for a long time. Don Reese, played the tour. And you go down there and you see all those trophies, 3 national titles on the men's side, 3 on the women's. And I'm sitting there in charge of both of them every day looking at these trophies, walking in my office, and I'm going, man, we need to get it going. We're not very good. And they look at it that way still today, those guys. And they're all retired now, but there were some great players. I mean, you look at Paul Azinger, Chris and I talked about him last night. Griff almost had him before he went to Florida State. Griff went after the absolute best players, and he got a lot of them. And he was outstanding there, and he was good to me while I was there, just teaching me things. And we would drive up to Saugahatchee in Auburn, and because we would drive to Auburn and play, we'd go to Dothan, we'd go to Montgomery, and over to Cameron Ridge. We played every 9-holer when I was at Troy. When you got both teams, we played some of the best 9-hole golf courses. Even, from 2002 to when I left, it was just awesome. We go over to Greenville Country Club, and you got to go to play that place. And those days just being around, and Griff would come walk with us after he retired from Auburn. And, he still had a love for Troy because he had played there, and heck, he taught my uncle at South Montgomery County Academy, taught school when he first got out of college. And in 70, 75, 74, 75. And, it just crazy looking back on those days.
What kind of shape was the program in when you got to La Tech?
They had won the conference title in 2016. They had a really good player named Victor Lang that I almost got at Troy. That's basically has nearly every record here. I've got a guy here now that's breaking most of them that he set, but they won the conference title in 2016, and then I came in after the next year, and it was okay. We had two good Swedish players, and not a lot of experience after that. We played decent in the fall. The two Swedes were sophomores, and they left. Both left. One just wasn't really good in school, did not like it, and went home. And the other one was the Swedish national team captain, and he went home to turn pro. And, I looked at them both and I said, look, I understand school's hard, but this is the avenue. There's a rarity of the avenue of just turning pro out of high school. And, Sam Burns was here. Sam was the same age as the one Swede I had. They were both 20. And Sam was about to turn pro, and I think he looked at that, and I'm thinking, buddy, you don't have the resume that guy does. That guy's the number one player in the country. Adidas and Callaway are all over him. You need to stay. You need to learn. You need to travel, because we're going to give you 10 to 12 events where you're not paying anything, and you're going to get to play against the best in the country. It's the best system. You travel, you learn, and then all of a sudden when you want to turn pro, all we're doing is pulling school away and inserting more practice time, more workout time. And, it's a proven system. If Tiger did it for 2 years, everybody should.
Right.
But after that, we've had some ups and downs. COVID threw a monkey wrench in some things. I got a couple of, we've had several from Alabama on the team, since I've been here. It was something that I changed, from Muscle Shoals all the way to Montgomery. We've had them from Decatur, the Murphy twins, Hunter Battles from Muscle Shoals, Will Patrick from Aniana, Grant Smith's about to graduate from Montgomery. He went to Catholic, so I've kept kind of that vibe. And when the guys get over here, they see how good it is. It is 5-6 hours away, but this place we're in a bubble over here. And I need to get you two guys over here to play golf at some point in time, because this place is special. It's really good. And there's a reason we've got, I think, 5 guys playing mini tour stuff. We got Turk Pettit that won 21 NCAA from Auburn that lives here with his wife and child. And then Sam Burns plays out of here, that everybody knows who he is. And it's just a special place. We got special ownership at the club. Every day I ride out there. I'm going out there at 11 o'clock today to take 2 of my English guys to practice. We're on quarter break right now, and they want to go out, and they sleep in and go out at 11. They played yesterday in 2 hours and 25 minutes. They played 18, practice, did what they got to do. It's great.
Matt, you referenced having some guys from Sweden, and even back when I played, the Swedish and Norwegian presence was pretty strong. played against some players that, if I started dropping names, people that you'd know or that you'd heard of. One of them, Per Johansson played on our European Ryder Cup team. But you've done a pretty good job of getting a lot of Alabama guys to come play for you. But you've also got some foreign guys. You want to talk a little bit about that process and kind of how all that evolves?
Yeah. We in junior college in Alabama, you couldn't scholarship foreign players, so we would have at least one on our team, that we would raise a little bit of money for and help them out with their tuition and stuff. And they were pretty good. And then when I went to Troy, we would have one or two on the team, more on the women's side. I had more foreigners on the women's side. And then I came here and I've never really had more than a couple. But the team, I kind of transitioned the last couple of years with recruiting, just because I didn't feel like we were getting the guy that could help us. And what I mean by help us is get ourselves in the final of a match for the conference title, get us in the top 5 of events, and just put us over the edge, if you know where I'm going, because coaches are working harder. I mean, at the Division I level, you got 2 assistant coaches now, and I'm still doing this thing by myself. So I've got to try to be a little bit more crafty about what I'm doing. So we went a little bit more foreign the last couple of years, and my starting lineup, mainly this year has been 3 sophomores and 2 freshmen, of which 3 are English, 3 are from right around London, and 2 are from Helsinki, Finland, and they're awesome. I mean, out of that 5 lineup, we just got our grades in. Our team had a 3.53 GPA, 2 4.0s in my starting lineup, a 3.7, a 3.5, and something just below a 3, about a 1 kid. He had 1 bad class. So they take care of their business in the school, in the schoolroom, and it allows them to work harder at the golf course. And it's, and they're awesome to be around. They're over here. It's business like for them. And it's been great for my American guys, because they get to be around a different culture. And I've been fired up. My guys have welcomed them in. They give them rides. Like the 2 guys that are here right now, they're going to have Thanksgiving over my guys. I got some local guys on the team, so they're going to spend Thanksgiving with them and eat and everything. They've been awesome. I got one Finnish young man that stayed. His parents came over. They're traveling and playing golf and going to New Orleans and, just seeing sights. And a couple guys went home for the break. And coincidentally, as you both well know, they got girlfriends. So that's the reason they went home. They got girlfriends back home. It's undefeated still. And they'll both be back at the first of the month to start winter quarter. But it's been, it's interesting. I've been over to Europe a couple times recruiting. It's been really good. It's eye-opening. They want to come over. They want to work hard, and it's a good mix of both. And you've got teams, scattered across. Some don't have very many on their team, and you got some teams like you would think Oklahoma State would mainly be U.S. players. He tends to have a lot of foreign guys. Same thing at Texas Tech, and everybody tries to mix it up, but ultimately we're just trying to get the absolute best player we can on campus, and great student, great human being, and wherever they're from is what we're getting. Definitely want to get the local guy first. There ain't no doubt about that, because it's a lot easier to get that local guy, because he can go back and forth, and he knows the climate, he knows Bermuda grass and all those things, because it takes a little while for these guys to get used to Bermuda. As you guys, I mean, heck, we still probably struggle with it, us 3, just chipping from day to day sometimes. You get some of those ingrained lies, but it's been awesome. I love these guys, and their parents are good people, and that's been a big kind of staple of mine too. When I recruit, is I try to really invest some time with parents, and don't really ever have any issues.
How do you kind of find the foreign players? And then, I mean, nowadays communication is a lot easier than back in the day, but when you're looking for a certain kind of individual, and you might just be on a Zoom with him and his parents, that a lot of them don't make the trip over here to visit campus, stuff like that. So just what's that process like? And is it difficult a little more difficult to find the right fit for your program?
Sometimes I've got some people I trust. We had a conference champion 2 years ago, James Swash, that's still here. He's playing out of here. He, I got him from a friend of mine that played at Virginia, and he's doing a little bit of recruiting and placement and all that stuff. And it's been good with him, and he's helped out. James came over. He's from Middlesbrough, England. He won the conference title for us 2 years ago, James Swash. And I had a friend of mine that's from England that played at Virginia that does some college placement. And, that's kind of how sometimes it goes. And when he called me, he said, I've got a young man for you. He'll be in your top 5 the whole time, and he'll be a really good player. Well, James came over. He played, counting the COVID year, he played 5 years, played every event except for Auburn his senior year. And he was at Canadian Q School that day. And when we were at Auburn, or that week, got through that, won a conference title later on that spring for us. He was everything. He was 1 through 3 for us the whole time he was here. And so Henry, I've got 3 more of his guys on our team now. And, and I do my own research, but, this guy's over there. He played at Virginia. He was a good player. And you look at numbers, you look at tournaments, you get to know the tournaments over there where these young men are playing well, because there's a way that you can kind of game the system, as it were, with World Amateur Golf Ranking. You'll see some kids with really good WAGR rankings that may not be as good. So you've got to trust some people over there. I had another good friend of mine from Canada that told me about our number 1 player. He told me about him 4 years ago. He said, look, I think this kid could be an absolute baller for you. And so kept up with him. As soon as I could contact him, I did. Jumped on him. He's here now. He has a 69 stroke average through the fall. He's a combined 31 under par. He averaged 72, was freshman of the year in the league last year. And I'm like, I'm not just like, I'm listening to these guys, but I'm also doing some research, going with my gut. Two of the English guys are freshmen. When Dixie was in the hospital, what you said, Greg, about Zoom call, that's all we did. I knew these boys were good players through their resumes, looked at swing videos, talked to their instructors, but we had some unbelievably great Zoom calls in the hospital, and Dixie would sit in on them. She's sitting there, no eyebrows, bald. And I feel like sometimes she's my best recruiter, because she was a great athlete. She kind of gets it, and she knows what we need to be surrounded with here in order to be good. And, for me, when I was at Troy, I wanted a good team, but we were trying to create a program and have a program. And here I'm trying to do the same thing. It's taken a little bit more time, but I want something that's going to last past me leaving and retiring. And these guys kind of have that in them to make this a program, with what they're doing. And, it can be difficult. Like I went to the British Boys this year, over in Leeds, England, and got to see a lot of good players, got to be around, had dinner with both families of the 2 young men that are freshmen on our team. And, the parents were awesome. I actually carried another coach with me from another university that has a lot of Germans on his team. And so you end up meeting, when you go to these tournaments, you'll meet the national team coaches and the instructors and stuff. You'll see them, because we'll go early and go to the practice rounds, and you get to kind of interact. And that's kind of how we found some ladies when I was at Troy as well. And, you don't have to necessarily go over every year, but it's good. It's good to interact. And it's, no different than here when we go to the Western Junior in Chicago, or we go to the U.S. Junior, you're going to meet the parents, but a lot of times, instructors are going to be there at these big junior events, and you kind of get to know who the young men are.
Yeah. Well, let's step back just a second. You mentioned your wife, Dixie. Tell everyone kind of a little bit about her story and kind of what all she went through. But you're correct. She was a heck of an athlete at Hatton.
Yeah. I was very fortunate. I'll pedal back really quick, and I always love to tell the story how we met. So in 94, I get booted out of school at Alabama, and basically bad grades and all this good stuff. I enjoyed the nightlife a little too much, as you know, you two boys have been around me a little bit. You know, my tractor would get cranked up, and that diesel fuel ran a long time. But um, went home. My dad put me to work, and met Dixie at the Kappa Sig house at UNA. She had just got done playing ball over there, and it was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me personally. The getting kicked out of school, what I thought was the worst thing in my life absolutely turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And, met her. She was an unbelievable athlete. I mean, she was in the paper, Chris, every week. You know that in the Moulton Advertiser, and was all state in all three sports. Goes to Wallace, plays all three there. Larry Slater and her other coaches over there, and then goes to UNA and plays volleyball and softball, and just an unbelievable athlete. I think the best athlete I've ever been around, and arguably the best human being that I've ever known. And for her to be my wife has been unbelievable, and it's helped me out so much. And we've gone through a lot through me coaching and her just jumping on board and riding with me this whole time. And, in January of 23, we were supposed to go down to the Junior Orange Bowl, at the Biltmore, and it was going to be a little mini, anniversary trip. We were both born on the same day. She's a year older than me. We were married on that day, January 5th. And, we were going down and doing all that stuff down there. Well, she wasn't feeling very good. I felt like maybe she's got COVID. And so she's going to stay home. So I go on down and, do everything. And January 5th, we talked, of course, on our anniversary birthday. And she still wasn't feeling very good. We was going to go to the doctor the next day and get checked out and do blood work and all that stuff. And I said, okay, well, the next day probably about 12 o'clock Eastern, she calls me and tells me she's feeling terrible. And she went and had blood work done. Oh, hold on, they're calling me. So she lets me go, calls me back, said they've told me to go to the hospital. The blood work wasn't good. Well, immediately, you guys know, I mean, my mom had died of lymphoma, so I kind of knew when she told me that it was probably cancer. And I'm stuck down there. I'm not flying out till that night. Supposed to meet with a young man from Iceland, sit down with his parents, go over everything, just kind of do the recruiting spiel with them. And I immediately called the travel agent, get my flight changed. And then, one of my best buddies in coaching was sitting there with me and said, hey, you're not going to make the second flight. And I said, why? And he goes, because they've already canceled the flight. They've already bumped the flight to Dallas because that's the one I'm on. So I scramble around and get on a different flight down in New Orleans. And I roll in to Monroe at probably 3:34 in the morning. And she's sitting there in bed. Her best friend, who was her teammate, Jerry Butler, who was a great athlete in Lawrence County as well, was there. And her sister, that's an attorney in Moulton, Paula Basson, was there. They had already driven in and were there. And when I walked in, I looked at her sister's face and I could tell and she hadn't been told anything, just they were running blood work. And then the oncologist comes in the next day, tells us he doesn't have full throttle things. He was very cut and dry, but he said, it's going to be cancer. And just a absolute gut shot. And I'm sitting there, and she's been the rock for me this whole time. So, I try to handle it the best I can. I'm looking at this guy like he's just delivered the worst news of my life. I hate this man, all this good stuff. Well, I text one of my players' dads who sells cancer drugs, and I asked about the doctor, and he said, look, man, I'll find out who he is and see if he knows what he's doing. Again, not the smartest guy in the room. And called me back and said, this guy studied at Johns Hopkins. This guy's really good. I don't know why he's in Monroe, but Well, the next day comes around. He comes in and tells us, that it's leukemia and that he's got a place for us to go. Well, you immediately think, we're here. It's MD Anderson. We're going to MD, arguably the best research cancer hospital in the world. Nope, we're going to Baylor Scott and White. There's a guy named Brian Berryman over there. He is the dude. We in golf always look for the swing guy, right? We look for the guy. Right now, who's the best chipping coach? I feel like there's three of them, but who's the guy, right? Well, I'm thinking, how good is this guy really? We get over there, and the next day we get over there, and Dixie couldn't walk. I had her in a wheelchair. She had gotten that sick. And we now know that if she had waited 2 more weeks, she'd be dead. She was that, her blood was that poisoned. We get over there, walk in the room, in the room at the Cancer Institute, Texas Cancer Institute, and he's got a marker board up in this meeting room. He walks in, introduces himself, writes down what she's got, and says, this is the first thing we're going to do. We're going to get you into remission. And he basically writes down, just like a coach would, the exact game plan. And then number 2, we're going to cure you. And this is how we're going to do it. I stopped him and I said, hold on, go through this again. You're going to cure? Because I'm looking at her thinking, how much more time do we have? I'm thinking 6 months, a year. And she now knows that I was thinking that. At the time, I didn't say it. And this dude did what he said. She's sitting there 100% cured right now. Her sister, the attorney in Moulton, was 100% match. Did a transfusion, a transplant, bone marrow. And, that year in 23 was unbelievable. I didn't coach in the spring. Had some people here that filled in for me and coached our team. And I would Zoom with the guys. I would send stuff for practice. Our swing instructor here, Brad Pullen, that teaches Sam Burns and a bunch of other guys, Brad kind of handled some things for me. Sam, would bring the guys over for dinner to his house and spend a bunch of time with them. He does that anyway, but he kind of amped it up a little bit. The guys from College Golf Fellowship got involved heavily. And it was just a village that really stepped in and did a lot for my family, and, neighbors helped out with the kids at home. Alyssa left school at Auburn and came home. Maya was finishing up school, our oldest at Tech. And because our son, he was in 7th grade, so we had to have some help. And I told the kids when we knew what was going to happen that their mother was the most important thing, that they were going to have to handle themselves. And, we went over, and it's a wake up. It was a wake up call for me on who I needed to be for the rest of my life and the existence that I am being here. And I don't think I could have gone through any of that had I not taken this job and come here and had some men pour into me here and really take my Christianity to a different level. And it allowed me never to get negative and not to get upset. Heck, I was in the chapel there reading the book of Job. We're in the middle of match play at conference, the final match, and I've got Grant Smith from Montgomery on the phone. We got one match out there, and I've got a guy that is about to get beat with a 3-footer. Guy misses it, and he beats him with a 20-footer on the next hole. I'm going nuts in the chapel, screaming and hollering, and my guys are on the phone. And this is all going on while she's going through cancer treatments. And, it truly was a magical time. I've told the story a bunch, and it just, right now the feelings are going back through me hard. And it just wakes you up. And it's like she and I are dating again now, though. And I've told Chris that, when we've talked, and it's funny. A lot of, it's like we're kids again, because we know that this time is not forever, on this earth, but what we're doing here can last, though, the things we do and how we approach things. And, I was fortunate, just the whole country wrapped their arms around us. A good friend, Jake Amos, who's now the coach at LSU, he was at East Tennessee. he started a GoFundMe for us, and that helped out a great deal with a lot of the expenses. I don't think a lot of people understand, especially young people, what medical expenses can do for you. Even if you got good insurance, it'll break you, and it and they're going because they're going to get theirs. And but it was great. And the funny backstory: the young man that I was supposed to sit down with at lunch that day when I had to jump on the flight was from Iceland, and it was a kid that one of his guys in Iceland was my assistant at Troy, and I had gotten really thought close to the kid. Well, Jake ends up getting him at ETSU. Well, he's the number 1-2 player at LSU right now as a freshman. It's kind of funny how all that loops around, and now the kid's here. I've seen him once this year. I'll see him 2 or 3 times in the spring. I wanted that kid bad, but Jake ends up with him, a guy that ends up doing a lot for us. And you just it's not for us to ask why. Just trust. Hold God's hand and walk with Him, and that's what we did. And I don't. It's crazy how all this has ended up.
That's a great uplifting story, and
Yeah,
you have to have the support at La Tech. It would be easy to get lost in the shuffle in something like that. Okay, Matt's over here. We know he's going through a hard time, but so obviously you had some really great support from the school.
Unbelievable, top to bottom from the AD down. My sport oversight traveled with the guys. Compliance guy traveled twice. My pro at the club traveled, and it was hard letting go of that, the control, and kind of that decision making stuff. But it was kind of nice too, because you kind of entrusted somebody else to pour into your guys, and I think it changed them. I really do. I think it changed the players, and I think it gave them perspective. I know that the guys on our team now know the story. They know, what it is. Dixie traveled with us to Hawaii this year, and the guys loved having her there. And even though these guys weren't here during that season, that spring of 23, they know the story because I was recruiting them during that time. We had signed them, and they get it. They look at her and go, wow, she went through a lot, and she's jacked up, and she wants to, and I'll tell you both this, she wants to win worse than I do. I mean, she is heavily into recruiting, wants to know why. I mean, if I make a phone call, she wants to know about it. And I appreciate that because it keeps me on my toes. And if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. And we're going to do it to try to win. But I feel like we've done a lot more than just golf here with the pouring in with the men here. We do a Bible study on Thursdays with the guys, and it's strictly voluntary, but we've got our 3 guys that kind of run that. One of my pastors, Brad, and then Thomas Davison, and they do a great job with the guys. They have poured into them and made them understand that this thing's not all about golf. Because if that's what you're banking on, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. If golf is what you're hanging your hat, it's what all 3 of us love. It's a passion, man. I miss getting after it. I miss talking to you after I played good, when you were at the Times Daily, and that was very rare, but I miss that. But that's just a subtext to who we are. It's just a little small something. I tell people all the time that I got Sam Burns here, who I think is one of the best players in the world, and golf may be 4 on his list. That may be 4, and I think we've all gone through it where it's been the most important. But I think, Chris, you can attest to this: the time that you get to spend playing a senior 4 ball with Tracy, man, you just wow. We getting to do it again, man. This is 10th grade all over again. You know what I mean? We're going
absolutely.
And I think we relish in it now. And I know the golf trips you go on, Greg, is probably the same thing. It's just the relishing of what you get to do and really enjoying that 3.5, 4 hours. People complain about slow golf. I don't mind 5 hours now, getting to spend a little bit of time with people.
Right, absolutely.
Just different. Sorry, didn't mean to get off on crazy kind of subject, but
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, when I was working in the newspaper business, it was 6 and 7 days a week, and I would get that one day to play, and it would get rained out, and man, I would be angry for a couple days, because that was my one day to be 5 hours
oh yeah,
to enjoy myself and not be worried about what's going on at the office, even though my phone
right.
would blow up, when I was on the golf course,
The whole time.
with stuff. But I appreciate all of this now, and it is eye opening. I think as you mature, you learn a little bit about that.
Yeah.
You don't have to be going full tilt on every minute you're on the golf course or doing whatever.
Yeah. It's been amazing to me how much better my teams have been when I've let go a little bit, and didn't worry as much when I'd go home about maybe the way we were playing or hitting it or how we performed that day. I remember taking the boys here to the Bahamas and being so angry at how we played the first round. We're in the Bahamas, and I got this little white notebook I keep, and I'm making notes on things and how we failed and where we messed up. And I wanted to meet with the guys and get after them and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, we're in the Bahamas. Well, when we went to the Hawaii this year, I met with the team and I told them, I said, look, when we're at the golf course, we're going to be at the golf course. But when we get done, we're going snorkeling. We're going to do whatever. We're not going to be talking about golf. We're not going to, and coincidentally, we broke school record while we were there. We broke 2 of them, and we played better, and I felt better, even though I was not happy after the first round, just like the Bahamas. I made myself do something different and be different. Even at 52, this is my 38th team I've coached. Counting the 2 times, I'm still learning. I'm still getting better, and I still don't have things figured out. There's still days I wish I could pick up the phone and call Coach Collins and say, man, how would you handle this situation? But I can't, so I do other things. I talk to younger coaches some now because they got the new fresh ideas, and they, their energy level is high octane now where mine's not as much. So I'm going to find something out from them. And I'm fortunate here, I've got Hunter Battles from Muscle Shoals has stayed here. He's in the banking business, and he and I talk every couple of days about the teams. He's a numbers guy. So we go through statistics. We go through how we can trim a shot here or there through just statistically doing something smarter. And before we leave for tournaments, he sits down with the team with me, and we go over, just statistically how we can beat a golf course. And it's what they're doing on tour. They're not just showing up and getting it done. These guys are not hanging out. I went to Torrey Pines 2 years ago. One of my guys was playing. Brad and I had dinner about 8:00. I didn't see one player. You'd think back in the 70s and 80s, them jokers would be pounding beers, and nope, not these cats. They're in bed. There's too much money on the line, and there's just too much, and they're looking at every angle in order to get better. And we're trying to do the same thing here.
Yeah. What kind of player can you get? Now you've got, and we talked with Coach Sewell at Alabama. They've got their Lamborghini that they just opened up.
Oh yeah.
Where does La Tech and kind of the mid majors fit in, and how will the potential roster reductions either help or hinder you in trying to find the best player?
Well, I think it's going to help us. You look, the SEC, for instance, they're going to go to an 8-man roster. Okay, the rest of us, if you opt in, you're going 9. We're going to have 9 here. So you look at the SEC. There's 8 rosters for 16 teams, and I ran the numbers. There's 28 too many players after the signings. Okay, so there's 28 too many players that are going to have to find a home. And then you look at, what is the ACC doing? What's the Big Ten doing? What's the Pac-12 and all these other schools? Because there's going to be too many players on some teams. And you sit back and you go, okay, could we cherry pick one of those guys here at Louisiana Tech and bring them here? Because we do have the number 1 course in the state of Louisiana. We don't have a women's program here. We have 6 days a week access there. We've got other courses an hour from here that we go play. We've got our own van. We've got all these things. We play in really good events. You can get to the tour from here. There's no doubt. There is a street that gets to the PGA Tour from Ruston, Louisiana, off I-20. You know, I promise you that. I had James played in the Monday qualifier at Sea Island this week. You know, we've got the Murphy twins are playing professionally, playing out of here. You got guys left and right. I've got 5 personal guys playing professionally out of here. You can get there from here. And that's the biggest thing is you don't have to go. Look, I went to Alabama because bells, whistles, crimson bag, roll tide, you know, back then 70,000 in the stands, all that good stuff. Guess what, Pods? You ain't playing football. You know, you're going to get on the field for your recruiting visit. You might get out there if you win a conference title or something like that. But other than that, you're going to be in the stands, you know, with everybody else. If you want to do that, that's fine, but you're playing golf. And Jaden, they built an unbelievable facility. I walked around it before it was opened. It is unbelievable what they built. Like you said, it's the Lamborghini, Cadillac. It's Bonetti, everything you can get. You know, Scott just did the same, you know, did an upgrade to their building and facility at Vandy. I mean, it's an arms race for those guys. But at the end of the day, it's about what you shoot and digging it out of the dirt. And we've got a phenomenal place. Our greens roll 12 to 13. We've got a top 10 player in the world that plays at our place, that plays with my guys, that practices with them. You know, I think we got a pretty good deal. If you want to get to the tour and be a top 10 player in the country or top 10 player in the world, just look about 10 steps from you on the driving range. What's he doing? You know, and he's doing it here. He could live anywhere in the country he wants to live, but he's here. And I tell kids that, you know, why did I come here? I had 18 and a half years in the system in the state of Alabama, and I just built a $3 million facility, and we were going to regionals nearly every year. Why would I leave? Ask yourself that. What is so special about Ruston, Louisiana? What's so special about the bubble that they're in there? Why is it so safe? Why is the university so good? Why is the education so good at Louisiana Tech? Those are questions that parents and kids, when I'm recruiting them, ask that to yourself. I can't make the decision for you. I made my decision to come here. I know who I am now. And I'll look at the players we have, and they're only getting better. I mean, we're 28 under par for the fall. We haven't played even near our capability yet. I mean, we did shoot 15 under the final round in Hawaii, and we were low by 2. We beat Oklahoma, the tournament champion, by 4. We can play golf too. You know, hey, everybody only gets 14 clubs. You know, none of those cats at all these other schools, they don't have specialty golf clubs that just make them hit it so much better. You know, if you want to see the latest and greatest in Callaway, well, it's coming here first. It's coming to Sam Burns first because he's with Callaway. He's their guy. And that's what, you know, that for me is, you know, what you look at. And with the day and age, the NIL, you know, those are things that, you know, Chris and I talked a little bit about it, but you know, I'm not a huge fan, you know, being able to transfer every year if you want to. You know, the kids talk about coaches being able to come and go. You know what? I've not met any Division I men's golf coaches that are 20 years old or 18 years old. You know, Greg, I mean, were you better at writing when you were 24 or now?
Oh, I was a star at 24.
Yeah. It's no different than I'll say with Chris. If Chris knew what he knew now about his golf game, if he knew now about his golf game and how smart he is now, he might be piddling around on the Champions Tour. You know, and I think you need to earn this. I use this statement all the time. You know, a lot of these kids that are playing Division I athletics and kids coming out of high school, they want to be Sam Walton after spending a year as a greeter at Walmart. It doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. We don't work that way. Like I said before, I'm on my 38 team and I'm still learning. And the money aspect of it, like I understand if you're hurting, you know, we're sitting here with what is it? $2.78 billion house settlement. 75% of that money is going to football. You know, the rest of it's going to basketball. You know, 5% is going to the other sports. So the trickle down effect to golf is minimal. There's coaches out there that are offering money to players to come play. And I'm sure at some point, if I get in the mix with the right guy, some Power 4 team is going to offer them more money than we can. But what's your end goal? What's your end goal with this sport? Is it to make 50,000 right now? Well, I can put that money away and I can play on that. How long can you play on $50,000? Chris, how long do you think you could play professional golf with $50,000?
Half a season.
About a half a year.
Yeah.
If you don't make any cuts, about a half a year. It's expensive, and that 50, yes, it puts you ahead of the game. But I don't know how many kids out there that play golf are so poor that they need that kind of money. So I just look at a kid and I go, we can get you there. You got to have faith and be ready to grind on it. And there's people that are going to write a check for you. If you're good enough here at this place, there are people that'll write a check. Once you graduate and you're done, they'll help you out. There's people that are successful that want to see you succeed too. Just like, when anybody turns pro, they get their contracts out just like me. I mean, there wasn't anybody beating down the door. For me, I had some family friends that gave me a little bit of change, and I worked and Dixie worked, and, we did all that stuff. But it's, we're in a situation where kids have to make choices. They all look at the PGA Tour U and, man, I can get a card through PGA Tour U. Well, how many of those are given out? Not very many. That's the upper. If you're 28th on that, well, that's good, but what are you going to get out of that? James Swash, for me, went Canadian Q School, got his card, went straight through all three stages his first time to the final stage. Now, he got bounced after first stage this year, missed it by one. That's going to happen. That's just part of the process of what we're doing and how you get better. And, you have your phenoms like Nick Dunlop that have already won twice on tour. And Nick's going to keep winning because that dude has won at every level, and he is an absolute stud. But for the most part, 90% of players they're on that grind. They're on that mini tour. They're on that APT, trying to go through the PGA Tour Americas up through Korn Ferry. And I just think you can do that here. I mean, Greg, I don't know what's going to happen with us. We haven't met about scholarship wise, because when we go to a 9-man roster, but you take care of your academics, you can get some academic money. Our team's sitting here with a 3.53 GPA. So I got some good academic guys. And I look at that heavily when I'm looking at players, because you better be pretty smart, coming here academically, because the president here and our instructors, they want a top-notch education. I'm proud my oldest graduated from here. I don't know if I could have graduated here, to be honest. And it's going to be fun watching what happens the next month. I just hope and pray that the kids with their hands out and the football and all that stuff, it doesn't end college athletics, if you know where I'm going. I'm sure that the doom and gloom of it is we could all be club sports, the non-revenues, the Olympics. And I hope not for a lot of our sake, because there's a lot of players just like Chris and yourself that played at UNA, at Wallace, that man, it's the time of your life. And the guys that played for me at Troy, they're all extremely successful, and they got great memories, just like here they do. And they learned a lot from playing college golf, traveling in a van and riding 10 hours to a tournament and playing. Those are all great things.
Yeah, I think nobody really knows what's going to happen and how that's going to play out. But you look at the Paul Azingers of the world, that might not have ever happened if he played back in the time when what's coming existed. I think that there's a pretty good chance that there's going to be a lot of guys that just decide they're just going to go to school. And where are we at, Greg?
I think I've covered a lot of the questions I had for you. I've covered, other than how good is your golf game right now, and would you make the travel team at La Tech?
There is not a chance that I would make this roster. I would be on the first bus out of here. It's funny. I think I told Chris this about probably about 9 months ago. I slipped getting out of the shower and partially tore my left rotator cuff. So I'll still punch some wedges around with the boys and chip with them and putt, but I hadn't played golf in probably 10 months. And I told Dixie that this break, I want to rehab my shoulder, and I'm not going to have surgery, but I just need to rehab it, strengthen my stuff around it. and I'll be able to play a little bit. I'm starting to miss it right now because the weather's so good and the course is in such good shape. When I ride out to the club in a few minutes, I'll send both y'all some pictures and I need to get both y'all over here. Y'all need to come over and load up, bring a couple guys with you and slide over here, play for a couple of days. You'd be amazed at it. And it's a
Cart barn road trip.
hey, it's the invitation is open and it's just a special place and a bunch of special people, top to bottom, the people that run the club, that own it. I never dreamed I could be at a place, and I've been fortunate. I told Chris, we laughed the other night. I said, when I first started playing golf, I was like, man, them boys are so good. And, I'd see Chris hit balls or putt and same thing with Tracy Lentz and Derek Proctor. Mentioned him last night to Chris that, man, these guys, I never dreamed I could, break 80 and because it's hard. This game's extremely hard. And it was so much easier hitting a thrown pitch because every now and then I could lean that left shoulder in and walk to first base, get hit by the ball. Or, you could mess up, 7 out of 10 times in baseball and you're a Hall of Famer, as they say. Golf, you mess up 1 out of 10, you're missing the cut if you mess up correctly. And, but I'm so thankful for golf and everything it's been for me. And, the fact that I grew up in a household with no golfers. Let me ask you, I never have asked either one of you guys this. Did your parents play golf?
Chris, you can take it first.
Yeah, my dad played. He's the one that
got you
introduced me to the game and taught me to love the game. And that's, yeah.
It's weird. My dad played occasionally, but he was a big tennis guy. And, I grew up in Puerto Rico, so I was a tennis guy and I was going to play baseball. And he tore up his knees playing tennis and just gravitated full-time to golf. But, and I was telling this to a couple guys I played with at UNA, I was a weekend golfer because where we played was 35 minutes away. And this is in the early to mid 70s. We had one car. And I had my mom and my dad took the car to work. So I took a school bus home and, I couldn't go out and beat balls every day. We had no backyard. So for me to have played college golf was, I played Saturdays and Sundays. If I could catch a ride home, my dad wouldn't play 36. He'd play 18. So I couldn't play 36 unless one of the other old guys at the club would take me home afterwards. So, I'd play 36 holes a week and, somehow ended up playing at UNA. Not very well, but I got a scholarship, so it worked out.
That's amazing. I mean, that's amazing. Heck, like I said, my whole deal was going out to that driving range at night and beating as many balls as I could and going to Deer Run and being able to chip for free. Shoot, I remember when I was in college, it was $300 to join Deer Run for the year. I mean, that was unbelievable deal. I mean, $300 won't get you a green fee at some places now.
No, it won't.
I played one of those places.
Oh, there's no doubt. I see what some people pay to play, when they go on golf trips and things. And I'm like, wow, because I mean, a lot of times with us, if we go somewhere really good, it's a cart fee, what they charge the college players. And you kind of ask, like we went by Kapalua when we were in Hawaii, and I talked to the pro for a while. He told me what they were charging to play, and I just looked at him. He says, "I said, do people pay that?" And he goes, "Happily." It was over $400 and something, and I'm thinking, oh my God. I mean, that's a lot of money, But he treats college players well, and that's a nice deal.
That is.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for carving out some of your valuable time for us and this podcast and this show. Thanks for sharing the stories and especially sharing story about Miss Dixie and what all that you guys went through. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we're going to rename it the Car Barn Podcast and Matt Terry Revival.
I love it. Come on, Hey, all of us ended up working at Cart Barns. I listened to Stewart's deal and I was absolutely crying at some of the stories that he was telling, and just I've still got a newspaper article that they wrote in Atlanta about he and his buddy. They used to play push-up matches, instead of playing for money. His boy that's at Eastlake. So I've enjoyed all the stuff you guys are doing, and I love the fact that you're doing it. And having Elvis on, just I don't know. There's so many guys that you grow up idolizing and that mean a lot to golf, and I can't wait to see you guys. I'm just blessed to be able to be one of these cats on here.
We do have, well, we're glad to have you. We have some really good ones coming up.
That's so awesome.
But, yeah, it's fun. We're having fun. Obviously, the listeners are enjoying it because the numbers are continuing to grow. So thanks to those guys too. Thanks to you, everybody that's listening. But
anytime for you guys, you let me know.
All right, Matt. Thanks again. Well, we want to thank Matt Terry for spending some time with us in the Cart Barn today. It was a good interview and a few laughs, and hope everyone enjoyed listening to it as much as Greg and I enjoyed spending some time with Matt.
Yeah, I appreciate Matt's time as always. Again, everybody's been so gracious with sharing their time with the Cart Barn podcast, and we hope you guys are enjoying the Cart Barn podcast as much as we are doing it. Next week, we got the pride of Childersburg, Alabama, Scott Limbaugh, Vanderbilt's head golf coach. He's got Vanderbilt rolling. He's had them going for a while, and a guy who's done well for himself, and we look forward to that visit.
Yep. Looking forward to sharing that episode. And don't forget, you can catch us on YouTube and anywhere else that you get your podcasts. But check us out on YouTube. And thanks again. We'll catch you next week on the Cart Barn Podcast.